Psych.
Tricky. Caught
Guess
you with your
what?
pants down.
Oops.
Hello, everybody. It's Wes, Hank, and Andy. We are back. It is, wow, the fan batch. This one, episode 313. And the reason I cut the intro video short was because we forgot to update that.
Apologies, folks.
It has been one of those weeks. I was just saying to the guys before we went live how I made a major flub with our production schedule and committed us to some stuff that we really want to do. But now we're double hatting, so it'll all work out in the end.
I hope so.
I'm quite happy with that. Oh, wait a minute. What am I doing here? Let's flip this over here. That's better. Now
There
I'm
you
looking
go.
in the right direction. I just want to ask everybody, how's your week going? How did everybody find the episode this week?
Action packed, very fast paced.
Twas action
It was good.
I need the next one now.
Yeah, it's a bittersweet. It's a double-edged sword for me because I'm having some serious, legitimate anxiety over the end. Not because the show is ending, but I don't know how it's going to end, and
The
I
amount of
don't.
loose threads that are still
I don't
hanging.
want my fears to come true. That's what I'm kind of worried about.
Yeah. I feel strongly that this is where we should have been the whole time. Like at this pace. I mean, Star Wars has proved they can. I mean, even Dave and his people have proven before that they can write like on a razor's edge like that.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm glad we're back. I'm glad.
I do. I agree. I feel like we are at the highest level of tension that we've had for the entire season, I think. Right now.
Easy.
Before we get into the breakdown, we should open up the show with another round of bad Star Wars jokes. I said that they've been getting a little dry. I'm going to attempt to reinvigorate some levity into our weekly segment here. Guys, Jabba the Hutt, he is so fat.
How
fat is he?
He's so fat, Obi-Wan Kenobi took a closer look and said,
"That's no moon."
Nice.
I hope that came across. I hope it's not just a bunch of static to everybody who's watching. All right, let's bring up our slides this week. Get through the usual stuff here before we get into the actual breakdown. The title this week, Into the Breach. What do you think about that?
They definitely go into the lion's den.
They are going into the den, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, that's part and parcel for that breaking into the enemy stronghold is what Star Wars does. So
yeah, absolutely,
it's very in line with that. I think it's also Omega in the deep in it too, like in the clutches.
Yeah. No surprise this week. We've been here before. The title borrows heavily on Shakespeare. Into the Breach, a derivative from oh my gosh, Henry V. Henry V, Act 3, Scene 1. The line is, "Once more unto the breach, dear friends, once more, or close the wall up with our English dead." In the play, Henry refers to a broken section of the Harfleur Wall in Normandy, France during the 100 Years' War. But metaphorically, the phrase is taken to mean having courage in the face of adversity and to keep trying to succeed even when faced with a difficult challenge. But it could also mean having to repeat an arduous or unpleasant task, like Omega having to escape from Tantus again.
Or Crosshair having to go back.
That as well. We got TJC in the house. Hello, sir. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. We're just getting started. Yeah, and I'm not a Shakespearean scholar by any means. So it was interesting to dig in on this one and sort of look at what the scholars have said about Unto the Breach. And now it has way more context.
Yeah.
When you frame it against the events of the episode.
Into the fray.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, this week's episode, it is The Bad Batch, Season 3, Episode 13, Into the Breach. The original air date was Wednesday, April 17th, 2024. This one is written by Brad Rao. That's our showrunner, by the way. Supervising director. Sorry. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And directed by Saul Ruiz. The runtime this week is an advertised 26 minutes or an actual 22 minutes and 25 seconds without titles or credits. Our synopsis this week reads, The Batch prep for a gambit in enemy territory. Not that gambit.
Not that gambit.
I know, so sad.
My heart goes out
So sad.
The other gambit.
That's fair. Well, the episode opens on Mount Tantus, and it's a sunny morning, which is a stark contrast to how we've seen it in the last few episodes. It's usually kind of dreary and rainy or nighttime. Even more so compared to the dark and drab corridors of the fortress's interior. An Imperial scientist and a medical droid report for duty in the vault. Placing a data pad into the slot on the wall. Wow. The road turns. That's a flub. Right. Yeah. It turns on the lights.
The room
turns
on.
The room lights turn on into what I've taken to call the children's institutional cage.
Nice.
Omega, now dressed in the same gray jumpsuit as the other children, wakes up on her slab of a bed, and she goes out into the central room and makes small talk with Eva. Now, Eva is clutching the handmade Tuca doll while she plays a hollow game. Omega introduces herself while Eva tells her the Empire wants them to play with the games. So Omega takes out some colored tiles from a drawer at the table, and she begins to arrange them. Now, Omega tells Eva that she likes her doll, and Eva clutches it even tighter as she looks up to the overhead control room, saying that Dr. Carr gave it to me. She's the only nice one. With a whisper, Omega asks, are they always watching? The Muriel boy, along with the Pantoran girl, and Bayron says, yeah, the droids too. Eva introduces them as Jax, Sammy, who we're just discovering now,
finally,
as our Pantoran girl, and little Bayron. There's an interesting point here, and we've joked about it, and I mean lots of people have said this. Did everybody pick up that when Omega introduced herself, she said, I'm Omega. And Eva introduces her, this is Omega.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that I've gone out of my way to avoid, at the risk of being almost like pantomime and insulting, like mimicking somebody else's accent.
Sure.
But contextually, from a child's perspective, when you hear someone tell you their name,
right,
that's how you say it.
Why wouldn't you repeat it that way? I just found that very interesting that, like, oh, as an adult, I wouldn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when I know it's spelled Omega, and that's the word. Yeah. Omega asks how long the kids have been here, and Sammy tells them that the Imperials don't like it when they talk to each other too much. And Jax adds that if you cause trouble, it only gets worse. Sammy tells Omega not to worry. She'll get used to it. Then she, Jax, and Bayron move off to another table. Omega looks up at the overhead control room, and we cut to a rising high-angle shot of the room. What's interesting is that in cinematography, high-angle shots are often used to make the subject look vulnerable or powerless. I think between that and the color palette and the ominous music we get in this, plus the downtrodden mood of all the other kids, it's used to very good effect.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about Omega here because we're literally seconds into the episode, and although I don't have I could have put 50 or 60 images for each section here. Did you guys get the impression, like right from the beginning, that she's already plotting the second that she woke up?
Yeah, she's gathering intel. Like, okay, here's my cellmates. I need to know what they know and what they know about what's going on around here.
I think it's easy to draw that connection. Like, we know what happens. We know by the end of the episode that is in fact what's going on. But trying to put myself in the perspective of like watching it cold, having no idea. And I think it really speaks to her leadership ability.
Yeah.
I know. I thought it was a very cool.
Just more that she's learned from the batch, right? Like
that's true. Yeah, absolutely it is. High up in the atmosphere of Boravio, the Bad Batch and Rampart wait at an abandoned Kaminoan cloning facility. Rampart paces impatiently, referring to Fee as that pirate, and he asks where it is that she's deserted them and why they're keeping him there. Hunter asks if he'd prefer to be back in the Imperial labor camp, but Rampart doesn't seem so cocky now as he protests, "We had a deal," adding, "I already told you what I know about Tantus." Hunter tells him that he'll get his freedom after they get the exact coordinates to the base. Well, just then, the sound of an approaching ship gets everyone's attention, and surprisingly, it's an Imperial Row-class shuttle. But at the same time, nobody seems alarmed by this, and in fact, maybe even a little relieved when the shuttle lands and it's Echo who walks out to greet them. He says it's the best that he could do on short notice. Looking at Rampart, he asks Hunter if they can trust this Hydro Snake. From over Hunter's shoulders, Rampart blurts out, "I can hear you." A comment coming in from YouTube. It's Clips Films, Melbourne. Wouldn't it be cool if someone let the Zillow Beast escape on Mount Tantus, destroying everything in that facility, and eats Hemlock?
Well, if you let that thing loose in that vault, just imagine what it'll wake up in the other pods.
That's a great point too, because we suspect that there are other things going on. Actually, that comes in.
What did we count? There was 25 different pods in there.
Yeah, including the big central one.
Yeah,
we get some more hints this week about additional animal stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a few seconds, and you may have missed it, but there's an audio cue. Follow-up from TJC says, "I'm expecting the clone doctor to test her own blood after what was said in the last episode by Nala Say." That's an interesting thought. I never did think about that. Would Emery want to test her own? We talked about has she been tested?
Exactly. That's what I had said last week.
Do we think she's been tested?
I mean, okay, so there's a good question that follows. Do the other technicians, especially the ones she appears to have beef with in this episode, do they know she's a clone?
That's a good point. I don't know. Where Dr. Scalder is concerned, it's hard to say because like she showed up with Hemlock. All three of those characters were introduced in the same scene.
Yeah.
Last season.
Right.
But I almost got that Scalder was sort of number 2 to Hemlock in the beginning.
Yeah.
And now that's flipped, right? So maybe
Scalder's. I think it was strange that any member of the Empire at any level would put a clone in a position of power. But again, there are a lot of Republic commandos running around with a lot of troops under them. So
yeah, that's some of that transitional stuff, which I'm so excited to talk about this week because finally we get some evidence of this transition that I've been talking about that we've been missing. The transition from the Republic infrastructure to the Imperial.
Mm-hmm. But after this amount of time, like a full year, she's got, experience with Nalase on her side.
Who, Emery?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely.
Which would, stick in the craw of the other two.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, you just jumped ahead because you worked with her.
That is true. Well, looking back at the former Vice Admiral, Hunter says, no, they can't trust him, but he is their best chance at finding Omega. Echo nods, and then he wheels about and boards the shuttle. Like, I'm here. Okay, let's go. Crosshair gives Rampart a shove, and the rest of them follow. Now, this whole "I can hear you" sets the tone for him for the rest of the episode. And did anybody, I know I did anybody expect the writers to write Rampart for comic relief?
So, no. And I enjoyed it, but I don't.
So did I.
I don't want him to have any redeeming qualities. Like I
Well,
don't
then
want Star Wars to do another Hux or another Callus.
Oh,
Like
right.
it's another kaiju. Like he's a piece of dung. Like we watched him for 2 seasons.
We watched him murder a whole friggin' planet.
Yeah,
That's
like
true.
I don't want
That
this
is
guy to have
true.
redeeming qualities. I don't. I want him to betray them, and I want to like two in the back of the head.
Right. Clips Film says Omega is Chicken Run Ginger.
Okay.
I'm not sure I get the reference, to be honest. Are we referencing the film, the Chicken Run film?
Well, she's definitely trying to escape
I guess that's true.
and lead the other chickens out.
I
too.
guess, yeah. Ginger must have been the main character then.
I haven't seen that movie.
We're gonna lead everybody out. Yeah, it's been a while.
I haven't seen it.
But yeah, like she's definitely nobody left behind.
That is true. That's true. Listen, if you guys forgot Boravio, remember that it was what's that?
Is that the one where we first met up with
Fennec Shand? Yeah. So Boravio, that's a planet in the Leto system. It made its debut back in season 1, episode 9. That one is Bounty Lost.
Cad Bane.
Yeah, this is the episode where Cad Bane is supposed to deliver Omega to Ton Wee, but it's Fennec Shand who's been hired by Nala Se who intervenes. So yeah, Boravio.
Nice.
In fact, it says in the Orbesh, Boravio.
Very good.
Also, the Hydro Snake comment. You know, every time I hear a Star Warsian thing, I have no choice but to look it up. I feel compelled to do that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I could not find a reference for Hydro Snake. However, I did find a reference for the Dragon Snake, which does live in water in a roundabout way. So if I take it to mean that that's what he's referring to, the Dragon Snake lives in the murky waters of swampy planets like Nalhutta and Dagobah. In fact, it was a dragon snake that attempted to eat R2-D2 in The Empire Strikes Back.
Nice.
And even though we only just see a glimpse of the creature back in the film, it was identified as a dragon snake in the novelization of the film, which predates the release by 5 weeks. Then Obi-Wan Kenobi ends up killing a dragon snake on Nalhutta during the Clone Wars episode 3.9, The Hunt for Zero. That's back in 2010.
Nice.
And the creature itself was supposed to make an appearance in 2019's Jedi Fallen Order, but it was cut from the final release. But we did get this awesome concept art of what it might have looked like. So yeah, Hydro Snake, Dragon Snake, maybe. I don't know.
Well, at the same time, he was stationed on Camino, right? Water planet. So there's your Hydro.
Oh, that is true. TJC says Emery could find out that she has a high M count and sacrifice herself for Omega to make the escape. After all, Hemlock wouldn't risk her if she was compatible. It's an interesting thought.
It is a thought. I just find it impossible that
We've
she
gone
wouldn't
this
have
long
been
without-
tested. Right. Yeah. I mean, she's ostensibly been there a long time.
I'm of the opinion that Emery has probably been.
She said she was taken as a child.
That is true.
Right to Nala Se. So.
That is true. I just can't imagine that somebody as sinister, as calculating, as plotting as Hemlock would not have. By the way, you need to get screened too.
Yeah.
I just can't see that. You never know, though.
Nala Se was covering for her too. But
we don't know. Well,
at what point they started testing?
We don't really know what kind of relationship that they had, if they even had one. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a tough one to jump to, but
yeah.
Again, I don't rule anything out.
Yeah. One more Clips Films.
Clips Films. Here we go. Let's see. If that happens when the Zillo Beast escapes on Tantus, it would be like an alien fest in Black Mesa in Half-Life. Oh, or Scene from Castle in the Sky when the robot destroys the army fortress in a rampage. Right.
Definitely put enough of a kink in the Empire's plans to make it draw out.
Given the introduction of the Zillo Beast and that it is an on the nose, this is our Star Wars Godzilla.
Yeah.
Quite literally. Of course it's going to run a rampage. Again, that would be what, the third or fourth. 2 episodes in the Clone Wars, one now in the Bad Batch.
Yeah.
This would be another one, yeah.
Because technically right now it's a hanging thread.
It would be the 95th kaiju in Bad Batch this season.
Just this season, that's right.
Yeah, and there's your line too. You'll get a wrecker line. Thank you for this kaiju.
Yeah, really. Oh, look, another monster. At least I know what this one is. Okay. All right, on board the shuttle, Wrecker shoves Rampart into his seat and demands that he starts talking. Rampart insists that he's told them everything he knows. He says that Dr. Hemlock has put safeguards in place to keep the Tantus base a secret. Hunter points out that Rampart has been there before. Well, he tells them that any ship going there must first rendezvous with Imperial Station 003 in orbit over Coruscant. From there, the coordinates to Tantus are sent directly to the ship's Navic computer. Echo calls up a holo image of the station, and he says that part of Rampart's intel checks out, but he can't confirm the rest of it. Rampart scoffs and asks if they think he's lying. Crosshair and Wrecker both turn toward him and in unison answer, yes. Echo zooms in on the orbital station and Hunter studies it for a moment. He says that once they dock at the station, they can find a ship bound for Tantus and pull the coordinates from it. Crosshair points out that they're going to need Imperial clearance codes, but Echo tells him he has it covered. Rampart laughs at him and says it's unlikely because the codes are changed every rotation. Hunter tells him that's why they're not waiting around. Rampart chuckles again, saying that even with the stolen shuttle and the clearance codes, they wouldn't be able to walk around the station unnoticed. But then Crosshair hisses, but you can. Hunter adds that they'll be his security detail, while Echo tosses Rampart a fresh Imperial officer's uniform adorned with the rank plaque of a captain. Hunter says that he can walk them right onto the station. Rampart balks at the idea, but Hunter says that he was an Imperial before, so impersonating one should be easy enough. Rampart holds up the uniform, and he taps the rank plaque with his index finger. I can't wear this. Derisively, he adds, it's a captain's uniform. The batch exchange looks. Rampart protests, I was a vice admiral. Echo shakes his head as he tells him, well, you've been demoted. Rampart scoffs and then shakes his own head as he stares at the floor like an angry toddler as he says, I hate clones. And we cut to an exterior shot of the shuttle as it takes off, clears the planet's atmosphere, and makes the jump to hyperspace. Checking in here on the comments here right now, we've got Clips who says, if not, then some should make a sketch fan-made how it should have ended style. I know, YouTube user Nicholas Damiani in comic with no voices. Oh, that's a cool idea.
Yeah, it's always an option.
You think we could hand animate something? Like old flipbook style?
I noticed that Crosshair's been rocking his toothpick this episode.
Getting his
it's been like there, then not there, then there, but this episode it's very consistent.
Very consistent.
Yeah, I quite like that. I want to ask Hank, now that we get some better shots of Rampart this episode, do you still think he's got a broken nose, or was it a lighting thing?
I didn't focus it so much on this week. I didn't really. It was that one shot that
I really did. It looked like I thought it was like.
I'd have to, fine tooth it again, but I like to think somebody smashed that guy.
Right.
Probably.
I'm just gonna address that. Clips Films, I see your comment. I'm getting to it. I'm gonna hold that one until we get there, but absolutely, that is a valid point. All right, so amazingly, the rank plaque on this uniform does conform with the single row system developed for Rogue One by costume designers David Crossman and Glenn Dillon, and that system, of course, was used again in Solo, Andor, and Kenobi. If you want to know more about how messed up Imperial ranks have been, you can check out our video on the subject that we did last year. By the way, it is the most watched video on our channel with over 11,000 views. But it's still a frustration for me because, like, Pablo Hidalgo, the head of the story group, has come out and said, now, of course, now it's gospel, that there are, in fact, two rank structures. There's pre-Death Star and post-Death Star. But doesn't give us any story reason other than there was just such a loss of high-ranking Imperials all at once. Still doesn't make any sense to me to reinvent the wheel.
No,
especially when you've got Tarkin and Thrawn sort of pre-Death Star that have the two row system.
Right.
It's still messed up. But mind you, they were consistent this episode. And they did get it right this time. So credit where credit is due. Thank you for not screwing that up.
There's a lieutenant coming up too, and I think they get it right there.
They do. There's
Yeah.
2 of them in this episode,
Yeah,
and they're
yeah.
both correct. Back on Tantus, Emery Carr and one of the medical droids attend Omega in her cell to administer her daily blood draw. Emery carries a tray with sample collection equipment on, and she places it on the bed beside Omega. As Emery collects the sample, Omega asks her where all the other children came from. Emery says she doesn't know, but they're well looked after. Omega says, "I'd like to believe you." Emery stands up to look at the freshly collected sample, while at the same time, the medical droid uses its scomp link to access a hidden panel in the cell wall. Behind the panel comes a cylindrical container, which Emery places the vial of Omega's blood into. It's kind of like the tube in an office building, you know?
A little bit.
Yeah.
There it goes. With the droid and Emery both fixated on depositing the sample, Omega takes a moment to eye the sample collection tray, where she spots several instruments, including a skin hook, a curette, and 4 probes. The droid closes the hatch, and Emery kneels down to collect the tray. As she leaves the cell, Omega gives her a calculated look, then slides one of the probes out of her sleeve as she looks at the closed hatch on the cell wall. Getting up from her bed, Omega stands in the open door. She sees Eva, Sammy, and Baron at one of the tables, and she smiles before walking out to join them.
I know that was for the audience, but that's how you get busted.
Pulling the tool out of her sleeve.
Checking your own thievery.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes,
Caught.
it's still there.
Where'd it go?
Also, Emery gives her like a sideways look, like back at her.
Yeah.
Does Emery know that she took the tool?
Emery is she-tech, so I she knows exactly what was on that. Yes.
As somebody who worked in healthcare,
I think short answer is yes. You're aware of your inventory heavily, right?
Working in healthcare and being responsible for preparing minor surgery trays, I knew it was on every tray that I prepared because I had to know. That's a very specific list of things that need to be there.
Yeah.
And then like double down the prisoner situation, and you would be even more hyper vigilant about like, oh, there's a scalpel missing.
You've had one child who's already tried to escape.
Yeah.
Now you've got the child who did escape. She's back. Do you take extra precautions with her?
That's just a subtle way. I don't think most people, the average viewer, wouldn't pick that up, but that's our subtle way to show that she's already on board with what's about to happen.
I feel like that, Lula, giving Lula to Eva was, sort of the first, like, oh, she really is.
She's turned, for sure.
And now there's a good chance that she knows that this is happening.
Yeah.
All right, getting back to Dr. Scalder now. There it is. There's the look back. I forgot to, there we go. It's almost like she's saying, I know what you're up to.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't get caught.
But I'm not going to do anything about it.
No, I'm not going to say nothing. You don't get caught.
No. In the overhead control room, Dr. Scalder warns Emery that letting Omega interact with the M-count specimens is unwise. Emery refutes the doctor and tells her that the children are engaging in the activities that have been provided, and they are under their watchful eye. Scalder reminds Emery that didn't stop Omega from causing trouble in the past. But Emery shuts her down with, I'm the chief scientist. I will run the vault as I see fit. How Imperial of that.
That's totally, She learned the game well. Yeah,
absolutely. Dr. Scalder's eyes narrow as she walks away. Now, we know that, as you say, they've got beef. We only got 2 episodes left. Is how long before Scalder, is actively trying to subvert Emery and that Imperial, what's the word I was using before?
Yeah.
Ambition.
Right.
That her own ambition gets the best of her.
I predict a chick fight.
Someone's getting punched in the nose.
Yeah.
Might be a hair pull.
Maybe.
All right. On the vault floor, Eva, Sammy, and Baron sit at a table playing with the games that they've been encouraged to play with. Omega sits down and she pulls out some colored tiles that she had been playing with earlier. Jax wanders over and he sits at the table beside them. Looking up at the control room, Omega notices both Emery and Scalder leave. Now, with just one remaining scientist, she takes the opportunity to talk to the other kids. Without making eye contact with anyone, she asks how often the droids take their vitals. Eva tells her it's twice a day after meals. Then she asks if the troopers ever come in. And from the nearby table, Jax pipes up, only when we cause trouble, because he would know.
Mm-hmm.
Eva explains that Jax tried to escape once, but didn't make it very far. Resolved to his fate, Jax says there's no way out of the vault, and they're never going home. Still arranging the colored tiles on the table, Omega asks if the other kids want to know a secret. They all perk up at that, and Omega whispers that she's already escaped from the fortress once before. Now all the children are glued to her. Eva gasps, "Really?" While Jax turns in his seat to look at her, and he asks, "How?" Omega tells them that she had training and she wasn't alone. Then her eyes narrow as she says she's doing it again, and she's taking all of them with her. Pushing the box of tiles to the side, she tells them to take a look. In front of her sits the ring tower game with a bunch of colored tiles arranged around it. Putting the ring game to the side, she shows them a crude map of the vault that she's constructed using the colored tiles. Placing 3 more colored tiles in the center of the arrangement, Omega points out the tables where they're currently sitting, along with the walls and the tubes that are inside the walls that the droids are using to move the blood samples. Omega tells them she needs to get inside the walls and see where the tubes go. Jax says only the droids can access those hatches. Omega scatters the tiles in front of her, then leans her elbows on the table, resting her chin on folded hands, and then slips the probe out of her sleeve just enough for the other kids to see it. She says that she can get the hatch open. Then looking up at the control room, she adds, "I just need them not to see me." Jax says it won't take long for the scientists to notice her missing, and Omega says it's okay because, as she puts it, "I like a challenge."
She's rocking some Jedi level competence. I'll say that for her.
Wow. I mean, we've already made that analogy that the Bad Batch are the super soldiers. They're the closest thing to superheroes without being a force user.
Yeah, and you remind yourself that if this was Boba Fett in this situation, this is the game. Like, she's that cool.
She is. Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to remember that when she's like, season 2 hugging the bear or whatever.
That's true. Yeah.
She's that cool and that resourceful, that intelligent, that crafty, that
when she's not having a tantrum. Why should I listen to you?
Just maybe has the ability to use the force.
Man, we're gonna come back to that.
And like the other thing going for her this time around, she's got 3 force users. I mean, yes, Baron's there, but
we're gonna come back to that too.
Yeah.
So
I would actually hazard. I would assert that we don't.
You would think so?
I do, and I'm going to hold on to that to the end.
All right,
because that's part of what I want to talk about at the end. That it's been in front of us the whole time. We've never talked about it. We're going to talk about it tonight.
Okay.
All right. As the stolen Imperial shuttle barrels through hyperspace, Echo uses some form of torch to remove the paint from Hunter's helmet. Hunter tells him they're approaching Coruscant, and Echo tells him that all the armor has been stripped. Tossing the helmet back to Hunter, he says they still won't blend in and asks if he really thinks Rampart can pull it off. From behind, Rampart clears his throat. With his hair combed to one side and his beard trimmed, he steps forward and dusts off the jacket of his new uniform with the back of his hand. In a commanding Imperial tone, he quips, "I beg your pardon." He tells them, "I didn't make it to Vice Admiral on looks alone." They all look over in silence before turning away. And with their backs to him, Rampart's brow furrows in an angry expression. There we go. Let's put that up here. Now we get to the comment. Clip says, "Seeing the batch stripping out their paint, well, as Rex said back in season 7 Clone Wars, so much for stealth." Yeah. I do want to talk about this a little bit, and I made a point. I put a slide together just so we can talk about this. We get from the episode guide this week. It says that in this episode, the batch stripped their armor of all unique customizations, giving us the first look at what the squad might have looked like on their very first mission. But there's an emotional part for me anyway. I honestly feel a little bit sad to see it being stripped away, because I look at those embellishments as being part of their identity.
Yeah.
Not like, oh, they're just like, no, each design is custom made by each person who wears it.
Yeah.
And having that identity stripped away, it just gives me this like I get to quote a Star Wars movie, I have a bad feeling about this. And I have been the I have been the everything's going to work out. That's always been my position, right? And Andy, you say it all the time. Star Wars is about hope. They're not going to murder children.
No,
they won't do that. But I am not going to lie. When I see this scene, when I see him stripping off the armor, and I look at the way that Hunter holds it in his hand, and he looks at it, and there's this like no emotion on his face. I honestly feel like, are we on a collision course for a Rogue One style TPK ending?
Get it done or die trying.
Well, yeah.
You say they're not going to murder children, but Revenge of the Sith.
That's true. That is true. That is true. Mind you, that is pre-Disney.
That is pre-Disney.
It is pre-Disney. There'll be a precedent. There'll be a precedent if they do it. If they actually, now mind you, presumably they murdered children when they nuked Camino.
Oh yeah.
We just didn't see it.
Yes.
You have to.
You didn't see it in Revenge of the Sith either.
That's true.
Disney era, they totally nuked children because when they launched up Star Killer, they killed 6 planets at once.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, but they're not going to show us. I have a strong.
The little ones hiding there, and then they go, "Oh, look at
that's true." Yeah, and then the glow, and then it's over. Do I think that in the Disney era of Star Wars? This is a good question, by the way. When we have our general discussion for the Disney era of Star Wars, do we think that they're bold enough to show us a literal up close? No, a dead Ewok is fine.
No, that was the most heartbreaking piece of Jedi.
Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry.
Get up.
Are they brave enough to show us ostensibly a child murder? We might find out in this show.
Maybe
we might.
But anyway, that left me with a bit of a hole in my gut this week when I watched that.
Yeah.
For me, it's synonymous with painting Chop when he goes undercover. So I don't want to ascribe anything bad to it, but I tend to be on your side with that one. But I'm just the good parts of me are the hope is hoping that it's just a chopper paint job and we're okay. But yeah,
well, that makes me feel better.
It bodes.
That makes me feel better for the half a second that I'm like, okay.
If we frame it like a chopper paint job, perfect.
Yeah,
because we didn't even get to see Crosshair get his, personalization or customization.
Sure, we did. His season 1 armor. All of it. So I'm going back. So we have the season 1 helmet.
Yeah.
All of the paint from season 1, all custom. That wasn't issued that way. They put that on there for sure. I think the season 2 transition is just that we're not in the military anymore. Yeah. We're on our own. So
and we're lightening up.
That's exactly.
From red to yellow, orange.
Yeah.
Okay.
And even Wrecker, you could argue, is the lightest character in terms of tone. And he had
with
straight
the brown
yellows,
shoulders and
straight yellows too. So
I like that. Well, arriving at Coruscant, the shuttle drops out of hyperspace and makes for Imperial Station 003. By the way, love the domed half hemispherical. Is that a mini Death Star going on? What is that?
Yep.
All right. With Hunter at the controls, a radio comm from the station comes in, demanding they identify themselves. Echo leans forward and toggles the ship's comm system, identifying the ship as Transport Shuttle Alpha 44, and then transmits the stolen landing codes. And there's a nice audio callback here to Return of the Jedi, where they use the same sound effect as when Shuttle Tydirium transmitted the clearance codes to deactivate the shield at Endor. Really like that. The comm is silent for a moment before the Imperial technician comes back with clearance to land at Docking Bay 5 TAC 02. Rampart lets out a sigh of relief, having been cleared. Echo looks back at the others in the crew compartment, and he warns them they can't stay docked for too long because the shuttle will no doubt be reported as missing. An animated Rampart goes off, assuming we're not captured or killed during this little mission. What assurances do I have that you'll let me go? Crosshair says he'll have to trust them just as they have to trust him. Standing behind Rampart, Wrecker adds, "So don't mess this up." Rampart turns to face the big man, dusting off his jacket again, which is another recurring thing. He retorts, "Mess this up? I know how to carry myself." He runs his hand through his hair and continues, "You're the ones that are going to stand out like overheated Gamorreans."
Nice.
Rampart adopts a regal posture with his hands behind his back and he walks smartly to the rear of the shuttle. Yeah, comic relief. All right, arriving at docking bay 5 TAC 02, the shuttle lands and the bay doors close behind them. Rampart and the Bad Batch descend on the lift. Rampart is the first to step off, and once again, dusts off his uniform, adjusts the rank plaque on his chest. Hunter steps forward, placing a hand on his shoulder. The Empire betrayed and imprisoned you. We broke you out. Remember that before you try to betray us. Rampart dusts his shoulder for the 76th time as he says, I'm here, aren't I? Then he literally pulls the Picard maneuver, tugging at the fringe of his jacket as he says, let's get this over with, and walks off the shuttle's ramp. I couldn't help it. I had to throw in a little Jean-Luc Picard there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hunter tells Wreckers to stay on board and to monitor comms. Then he, Echo, and Crosshair form up around Rampart as the security detail. Just then, a hatch opens and the deck officer approaches them with a data pad in hand. The man asks who's responsible for the shuttle, noting that it isn't on his manifest for the day. Eyeing up the strange armor of the clones, he demands to know what division they're from, calls their uniforms non-regulation.
Suddenly beards are regulation.
Well, in the Navy, that's totally acceptable.
Well, in our Navy, sure, but I've never seen them.
Did we have
Star
anybody
Wars
bearded Star Wars beards?
But a couple episodes ago we did, and I think it was to normalize this.
Maybe. Did we get any beards in the Imperial military in the original trilogy?
I don't think so. We got a mustache.
Wow, I don't think so.
We got a couple mustaches.
I mean, in the Rebellion, Durlan
Yularen
had a mustache. Yularen had a mustache.
What's his face?
Madine has a mustache.
Yep. Well, there's a few rebel generals with beards. Madine has a full beard.
Nick Sant / Rex / Nick Sant.
I would expect that from rebel troops. You know what I mean?
Sure, they're
like
hodgepodge.
Right? Yeah. I'm just saying it's almost
That's
like
an interesting thought.
Yeah. I think that even on Aldani, there was. I don't think. Oh, maybe that the head guy had a beard.
Oh, the commandant of
the commandant may have had a beard.
I think he had a very fine beard.
I know the what they called a sergeant. That was the same. It looked like they released him as the Imperial officer figure.
Yes, he had a mustache.
He had like a handlebar mustache. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
There it is. The facial hair of Star Wars. It's a whole other short.
There's a video for that. I wish I had a note. I should make a note. The facial hair of Star Wars.
The AI will probably pull that short out of this one.
Oh my God. Yeah. Where was I? Oh yeah. Form up as the security detail. The deck officer shows up. Uniforms are non-regulation. Now, where is it? Oh yeah. When Hunter remains silent a little bit too long, the officer barks at him. I asked you a question, trooper. But then Rampart pushes Hunter out of the way, telling him step aside. Then, squaring off with the deck officer, he sneers, my division and my orders are classified. If you have an issue with that, Lieutenant, then contact Governor Tarkin. And with the Tarkin name drop, the lieutenant is suddenly very submissive as he looks straight ahead and he offers a sheepish, yes, sir. Rampart tells him to carry on, and the lieutenant fires off a weak salute and an even weaker apology before leaving the docking bay. Rampart, pleased with his performance, looks at the clones and says, I've missed this. Then, waving his hand towards the door, he offers, shall we? Adjusting his rank plaque one more time, Rampart leads the clones into the station. All right. Rampart leads the clones through the station corridors, past several troopers and other Imperials going about their duties. At the end of one corridor, a door is guarded by 2 stormtroopers. Rampart says it's the control room and they can access the station manifest from there. Echo grudgingly tells him to do his thing and get them inside, and they'll handle the rest. Rampart, who's relishing in his new role, says, that's do your thing, sir. Of course, Echo's answer is an expected, I don't think so. At the door, Rampart tells the troopers they are relieved and are to report to the barracks for further orders. And the troopers are confused because they just started their shift. But Rampart isn't having any of it, and he asks if they'd prefer to spend a few rotations in the brig for violating Article 15 of Imperial Standing Order 10. And you better believe I tried to look that up. I got nothing.
Yeah.
Oh.
I got nothing. The troopers look at each other before one of them answers, no, sir, and then march off. Pleased with himself, Rampart looks back at the clones and gestures with his hand to follow me. Opening the door, Rampart opens the door of the control room and catches one of those generic helmeted technicians by surprise. He says he needs Rampart's access card, but instead, Hunter gives him a face full of stun blast. And before the man hits the floor, Hunter is there to catch him and lowers him down. Crosshair shoves Rampart through the doorway and quickly shuts it. Meanwhile, Echo plugs into the central console with his Scomp link while Hunter goes to look at one of the displays. This is a pretty cool nod. I quite like this. We have a very nice callback to the control room on the Death Star back in A New Hope. Docking Bay Control Room 327, as opposed to the one we're now. Love the colors. Looks good. Looks fantastic. And there's a blink and you'll miss it moment. I love this. When Crosshair like shoves him through the door, Rampart staggers forward, catches his balance, and then looks like, what the fuck? He literally does like both hands. What? Loved it. I thought it was hilarious. Now, Hank, this one's for you, man.
Okay.
Last week, you made a comment about how it looked like the stormtroopers were doing the lion's share of the work.
It's a true
how
story.
they were like the drivers and the pilots, and they hadn't yet become the specialized shock troopers we know them to be. It's very fitting this week that ties in exactly to what I've been complaining about all along through the whole series, all 3 seasons.
It's true.
I wanted to see this transition from Republic to Empire, and we got a very, 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 very nice example of that. Unfortunately, it's so late in the series that it's like, why didn't you do more of this?
Yeah.
As they're walking through the halls, we pass this guy, and I'm like, whoa, wait, what is that? We have a TK trooper now with hoses on his helmet and a chest box. And I immediately go, that's a pilot.
Yeah.
This is proto TIE fighter pilot. And what ties the whole thing together is in the very next frame, as they are walking down the hallway, they actually pause, and there are a group of 4 clone pilots go walking by down the same hallway. In with the new, out with the old. And I quite like that.
Yeah.
Well, not one to sit on my bum and just kind of let that go. We have to look at the how did we get here? And I think that this is exciting. I think we are looking at the proto TIE pilot. So going back through time, here's a little walk down memory lane, if you will, about pilots in the Republic military. Interesting that the chest box on our TK trooper looks very, very much like the
phase 1.
The phase 1, yeah.
Yeah.
Our phase 1 pilot from Attack of the Clones, if you recall, is essentially a phase 1 clone armor with a different helmet and a chest box. And then they did that when we transitioned to phase 2. We get the fancy beak helmet. I don't know what else to call that. And then Hank, you said you'd forgotten this one, the phase 2 pilot that we see in Revenge of the Sith. And I'm like, Oddball? You forgot Oddball?
Well, no, as soon as you said it, my head went Oddball, and then you said Oddball.
Yeah.
Does he ever look like a rebel pilot there?
Well,
the
thing
aesthetic
about that. No, absolutely. But remember, when you look at the TIE pilot, the Imperial TIE pilot, their helmets, it's literally the rebel pilot helmet with a stormtrooper mask stuck on it.
Yeah,
exactly. It's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And it's a real disappointment that they've just essentially abandoned that, because that to me is the natural transition. Like that phase 2 pilot is the natural transition to TIE pilot. But now we've introduced this TK trooper pilot. That's okay though, because I think that design in a roundabout way does not get abandoned, because as we go forward, I'm jumping ahead of myself. if you want to get technical and go back and include the Tartakovsky Clone Wars, there is a second version of the Phase 2, which adds a full. It's essentially the Phase 2 that we saw in Revenge of the Sith with a full face helmet.
And it's the missing.
Absolutely, it is the missing link. That would have been the perfect transition, but that's not what we're getting. They didn't abandon the design though completely, because we do have the Imperial Jump Trooper. And even though the hoses don't connect to a chest box, they do connect to the jetpack. And it's very Macquarie-esque, because you've got the longer shoulders, just like the TK Trooper, and of course you've got the crest, like you say, Hank, like the Rebel helmet, and the TIE pilot. And of course, our transition to other specialized people like the AT-AT driver. I call it AT-AT driver because they don't really.
That's what the figure was.
What do we got?
That's what's on the box.
Clip says, I forgot the V-Wing pilot helmet, which was a concept, but it's Legends design, not canon. Fair enough. I was pretty much sticking with canon. I was stretching it by adding in the Tartakovsky one, and I only did that because I thought this is the perfect transition from one to the other. Yeah. Do the AT-AT pilots or drivers do anything else? Do we ever see them in anything else? I don't think we do.
And they get shafted, because when you see the tank drivers in Solo and Rogue One, they're
all essentially the shore trooper armor with a different helmet. Yeah. I like that better. Anyway, I was super happy. This was so exciting for me as someone who has been actively like, hello, come on now. Yeah. And now to see that, we do get some more transitional stuff in this episode. Like, for example, in Tantus, all of the squads of stormtroopers are now led by commandos. Like carte blanche. That's the way it is.
I even feel like the Death Star style control room is transitional, because we're now parts of it are completely shifted over that way.
I mean, if you look at that exterior shot of the station itself and how it is hemispherical, is that where they borrowed that design from?
Could be.
Especially, our understanding of Imperial infrastructure is that it's all modular.
Or, I mean, is this another space station that Galen Erso has designed prior to designing?
Oh, I don't know. No, Galen didn't design the station. He only designed the weapon.
Okay.
Yeah. But it just seems logical that the Empire would use
the rounded stuff is
like
a trade federation aesthetic too. Like,
oh, very much. Yeah.
And don't forget, we're only 3 years post Order 66.
Yeah.
We still got another 17 years before the entire Republic is completely phased out.
Yeah. No, you're right. All right. Well, back at the hangar, Wrecker sits on a seat inside the shuttle's cargo bay, idly thumbing a data pad like it was a modern day cell phone. Love it.
What kind of 5G they have on that station?
What do you do in your downtime? We all do it. You pull out your phone, Facebook,
Galaxy News.
Yeah. He's on the Hollow Book.
Yeah.
All right. The deck officer storms in and he orders him front and center. The lieutenant demands to know where his captain is. Wrecker stutters for a moment before answers, captaining. The deck officer looks at his data pad and he says there's an inconsistency with the shuttle's base of origin, and he's going to need Wrecker to verify the ship's signature key. Wrecker says, sure thing, boss. Right this way. And he leads the officer over to a control panel. Now he keys a switch, but instead of getting a readout of the shuttle's signature key, the cargo bay doors swing shut and Wrecker lambastes the officer with a huge left hook, knocking him out. Doot, 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 doot.
Oh, right over here.
Yep. Come have a look over here. Back in the control room, Rampart paces nervously while Echo works to break the Imperial encryption so he can get the coordinates to Tantus. Losing his patience, he slams his fists down on the console and he shouts at Echo, can you break the encryption or not? Getting up from the scomp jack, Echo tells him that he's working on it, and then pushes past Rampart and moves off to one of the wall consoles. Just then, Hunter's comm goes off, and Wrecker tells him about the run-in with the deck officer, that someone might come looking for him. With the clock ticking, he tells Wrecker to make sure the shuttle is ready to go. Excuse me. At the wall console, Echo works his scomp link and finally declares, "I'm in." On the display in front of him, he points out an Imperial science vessel docked in Bay 8 that is bound for Tantus. Hunter says they should get to the ship and pull the coordinates from its navicomputer, but Echo tells him they can't because the ship is tagged to have the coordinates transmitted after it's departed from the station. Crosshair points out the obvious that there's no way to get the coordinates and asks Rampart if that little detail slipped his mind. Rampart retorts, "You expect me to know technical details like that?" Hunter, thinking on the fly, says there's only one option left. That's to hitch a ride on the science vessel itself. Shocked, Rampart blurts out, "What?" And Hunter says it's the only way to get to Omega and free the other clones. Rampart scoffs as he explains how science vessels have heightened security protocols, and there's no way they can all sneak aboard undetected. But Echo asserts, "I can." Crosshair says, "You can't go alone." Hunter says he's not, and he tells Echo that once he's on the ship, he's to find a way to disable its proximity sensors. The rest of them will follow behind in the shuttle and attach it to the science vessel's hull and piggyback all the way to Tantus. Rampart loses his mind at this and has another outburst. "Now wait just a minute. This is not the plan I agreed to." Crosshair leans in to remind him, "Plans change."
I don't alter it any further.
Yeah. Echo strides toward the door, ready to get to work, but Hunter stops him with a hand on his shoulder. "They'll monitor comms, so we'll have to go radio silent. Watch your back." Echo nods and leaves the control room. Remember that line. We have to go radio silent. A couple seconds. Yeah, remember that. A couple seconds later, with Rampart in the lead, the rest of them follow suit. With Hunter gently pushing him forward, Rampart exclaims, "Wonderful. We're all going to die." Now, he says we have to do this with radio silence. And given what they're attempting to do, there is a level of precision that's required that, like we said before, like it is like superhuman.
Mm-hmm.
And I hazard to say that anybody non-forced usery, not the Bad Batch, would not be able to pull this off. I just don't think they could.
No, it's a fair shake.
Yeah. Well, the Orabesh this week, again, is mostly another batch of gibberish code, which, as I have said before, is a completely missed opportunity for Easter eggs for extreme Star Wars nerds like us.
Mm-hmm.
We do have ship's inventory, scrolling gibberish code. We have logistics, and we have a science vessel. But that's it for that screen. And then our other one, we have location stats, and then even more gibberish. Blah, 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 blah. So disappointing. All right, cut to an overhead shot of Mount Tantus, where the concentric rings of the man-made fortress contrast the natural beauty of the mountain. Then we match cut to the same overhead angle of the vault floor. Of course, a match cut is a transition based on something that matches between one shot and the next. In this case, it's the concentric rings of the mountain and the concentric rings of the vault floor. And good match cuts are used to add drama, comedy, tension, or any other emotional response the filmmaker wants to evoke from the audience. I think it's safe to say that the tension here is at an all-time high. So well used here.
Or do we look at it this like eye in the sky? Because they've got eyes on them at all times.
Yeah, I suppose so. But then I think it's more.
It really illustrates the levels that she's got to get through to get out too.
There is that for sure.
Yeah.
Because we don't know what level down she is right now, do we?
No, we don't. I mean,
never state exactly how far into the mountain.
Something called the vault. I'm thinking dead center, bottom, as far down as it'll go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She should ask if everybody can swim first.
Yeah, really. Looking at you, Kino. We don't even know if this is the mountain that they landed at. Like, there's that other mountain that's off to the side. We don't even know if that's if it's the same mountain. All right. And the tension only heightens as Omega sets her plan in motion by going to her cell and then uses the stolen medical probe to pry open the wall that's in front of the tube system that's behind it. While at the same time, Dr. Scalder, who's noticed that Omega's now absent from the vault floor, comes to investigate. At one point, Omega bumps a wall tile with her shoulder, causing a cascade of panels to fall that results in a loud clang that the other children can't help but notice. And then they all look up to the control room. Did anybody see that? But by the time that Dr. Scalder arrives at Omega's cell, she finds her sitting on her bunk playing with the hollow puzzle game. Omega turns to face the doctor and greets her, asking if is something wrong. And we get this really cool POV shot from Scalder's perspective as she pans her head around the room, which I thought was very cool. Kind of a Republic Commando first person kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
She scans the room looking for anything out of place, but finding everything in order, she just offers, and then leaves. Omega heaves a relieving sigh before joining the other kids at the center of the vault. Jax turns in his seat. Well, Eva continues, did it work? Without making eye contact, Omega answers, uh-huh. With Bayron on her lap, Sammy asks, what did you find? Omega glances at the other children as she says, our way out.
Escape from Alcatraz much?
Yeah. So this week, one of the things from the episode guide, they actually said that this week's episode was inspired by Escape from Alcatraz.
Yeah, heavy.
And believe it or not, Under Siege.
Oh, crazy.
Don't know how that plays in, but okay. All right. The kids all look at one another while Omega glances up at the control room with a smirk on her face. All right. So I want to get into this thing. We're talking about the force use thing.
Yeah.
Now, Bayron has been here, 3 episodes now? This is the third episode. And something that's been there the whole time. We've never talked about it. And I don't even know if you guys noticed this, but of all the kids, now these are M count kids. These aren't necessarily force users.
No.
The only one that we know for sure that has used the force is Bayron.
Yes.
Because in the market, he knocked over the guy in the fruit stand, right?
Yeah.
And the mom was like, oh. Bayron is wearing a collar that none of the other kids are wearing. And every time he vocalizes, baby babble, blah, 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 the collar lights up. I don't think that this is a translator or some sort of device for the Imperials to understand him. And I wonder if this is, in fact, a force inhibiting device. And that every time it lights up, little Bayron is inadvertently using the force.
Maybe.
I can't help but think about that.
I would wager, though, how would they know the other kids had a high M count if they... That would suggest they're just testing everybody randomly.
Yeah.
If those kids had never exhibited some force abilities, that's what got them noticed. Grab those kids and test them.
Yeah, because that's what got him noticed, right? Some dude calling in.
Absolutely.
Like, oh, there's that weird kid that does weird stuff.
I would
I'm
say
not refuting
that they all can wield the force in some fashion.
I'm not refuting that. I'm only pointing out that of all the 4 kids, he's the only one that's wearing a device.
Yeah.
That we can see.
At this point, though, I could see it being beaten out of them. Because like Jack said, like the troopers only come in when we cause trouble. So that could just as well be like, oh yeah, I use the force. No, I got shocked for my troubles.
Maybe.
Except there is no audio cue. It could also be a universal translator.
He's a toddler though. Like I guess, and we don't know like at what rate that alien species develop language ability. So it's hard to say what it is or what it isn't.
Have we seen a collar like this that inhibits the force?
No, but we've seen other devices. I go back to that
so casually too, like
that Mandalorian thing. The
box,
yeah. And I know this is a far cry from being a box, but at the same time, what else could it be?
Man, if they had this tech, they would have used it a lot more. Maybe.
Yeah.
I could see backwards engineering from like the Silmarillion or whatever they're called.
Yes, the Salamiri, the salamanders.
Yeah.
The anti-force salamander lizard creatures. Yeah, them. This has me thinking, and I don't know, did I put it in here? Yeah. So here's a thought process on that. Let's just assume, let's go with the line that this is a force inhibiting device. Omega's got that probe. Want to bet that probe is used to knock that thing off, and some Imperial is not going to have a good day when Bayron has an emotional outburst.
Well, maybe. Maybe.
Did you say there's 3 Force users? Well, there's 1 Force user for sure, and it's Little Baron. Like
For sure.
for sure, it's him.
Yeah.
I think that is going to factor into whatever escape that is made or rescue. That they're going to help themselves, obviously.
Yeah. My other thought of this whole scene, though,
Sure.
when she knocks the extra tiles, they just start falling off. Like
Who knocks the tiles?
Omega, when she pries the first one off, and then
Right, she hit it with her
4 or
shoulder.
5
Yeah,
more
they all
fall off.
slide
It's
out. Tink, 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 tink.
It's like, oh, it's like Jenga. Pull the bottom one, they'll all fall down. And
Modular.
These, it's come up before.
or are they magnetically sealed?
Oh, I don't. Maybe. These games that the Empire has left for the kids to play. Do you think that these are akin to a speeder, a ship?
Yeah.
Like the
Force
Jedi
testers.
test. Yeah,
I got that impression from the first episode when I saw them, like,
right.
because they didn't appear to be. They appeared to be like manipulating with their minds, but then they look like a video game, which there could be some other sort of interface, you know, like holo game. But then I don't think they are Imperial mandated games because of the line that she uses in this episode. I think they're her mandated games to keep their minds active.
Oh, that's an interesting.
They may not have had them under Nalase.
Right. Oh, that's possible
I think they did have some under Nalase, because when Emery first goes in and meets them, isn't Eva already playing with?
She's playing with the blue. There's 2 of them.
There's
There's
Jenga type
the
one.
blue hollow one, and then there's the ring game that we
That's
see
true.
Omega
That
playing
could be.
with right
That
now.
could be.
But maybe she just expanded the selection.
They're both named. I didn't get the names of them. It's in one of the episodes.
It is one of the
yeah. But they both have names anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, Baron wearing a collar was there the whole time for the last 3 episodes.
We'll see.
I just noticed it now. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah.
The secret hero of the entire series.
Outside the station, a Venator-class Star Destroyer sits docked to one of the station's long docking frames, while a pair of Row-class shuttles streak past in the foreground. On the widest ring of the station sits a large landing bay with an Imperial science vessel nestled inside. Inside the bay, Echo makes his way across the floor, keeping out of sight from the many guards and labor droids that are working there. At one point, a labor droid wheels a stack of yellow and red crates past, and some form of creature can be heard grunting from within.
One of the
So we're transporting more animals.
Mm-hmm.
Under the belly of the ship, an officer scans a column of stormtroopers one by one before waving them onto the cargo elevator. Echo spots the group from behind a stack of crates, and he knows that he can't board the ship that way. And just as he's about to move to the next piece of cover, a quartet of astromech droids rolls past him. The lead droid wheels around and chirps at him, presumably giving him grief for being in their way, before rolling off to catch up with the others. Echo watches as the droids line up, and one by one, they go up a magnetic suction tube, not unlike what we saw on the Sandcrawler.
Or Feast ship.
Yes.
It's fun to see them using R2 units. Like
actual
astromechs of any kind, but actual R2 units.
R2, yeah. But again, we saw them, our first exposure to astromechs, Phantom Menace, a trio of them, 3 or 4 of them that were like literally, presumably that's what they're doing here as well.
Yeah.
All right. Echo watches as the droids line up and one by one go up the tube. Seeing an opportunity, Echo climbs up a stack of crates that's being moved by a labor droid, and he presses himself flat, and then they cross the hangar floor. Once under the belly of the ship, he rolls off, landing behind a smaller stack of crates, and he watches as the last astromech and a mouse droid go up the tube. A nearby commando notices some motion off to one side, and he moves towards the tube to investigate. But by the time he gets there, Echo is nowhere to be seen, so he taps a button on the tube, and it retracts back into the belly of the ship. Now, you think that they'd make it easy on me, and they really didn't. The officer that's checking the troopers is identified as Lieutenant Novitz, and yes, he is wearing the proper rank plaque, 2 blue and a red. Lieutenant Novitz is played by Jeff Boehm. Now, Jeff has been acting in film and television since 2005, but this is his first foray into voiceover. Most of his roles have been one-off supporting roles, but he has appeared on NCIS 3 separate times, as two different characters.
Hmm.
In season 13, he played the polygraph specialist Oliver Bale. And then in seasons 20 and 21, he played prison detention officer Otis Glazebrook.
Hmm.
Jeff has also appeared in shows like Criminal Minds and the Tom Hanks movie Angels and Demons, where he appeared as one of the Swedish Vatican Guard.
Hmm.
I didn't get this one right away. I immediately attributed, because when I went to the credits, first thing I do when I set up my writing for the week is I go to the credits and see, are there any new actors that we haven't talked about that we need to introduce?
Yeah.
And I see, oh, here's this guy, and I see Imperial Officer Lieutenant Novitz. I automatically go to because there's two lieutenants this episode.
Yes.
Who's got the most dialogue? The deck officer.
Right.
I naturally go, it's him, but it's not. Let's credit the guy who's got like 2 lines and not the guy who's got like 10.
Funny.
That's what I thought. All right, we cut to the bridge of the science vessel where Lieutenant Novitz gives the order to begin the launch cycle, and then the ship's thrusters begin to fire. This is where we get the confirmation that these TK troopers are indeed pilots, as there is a trio of them at the controls and a pair of commando guards at the back of the room. At the same time, Rampart and the others arrive back at the shuttle. Wrecker walks out with the deck officer over his shoulder and wearing his cap. He sets the unconscious Imperial on a crate and places the cap back on his head, and then joins the others on board. At the controls to the lift, Hunter gets a call from Echo warning him that the science vessel is taking off right now. So he tells Echo to get the sensors disabled and dashes for the cockpit.
That's a radio.
They'll monitor comms. We'll have to do this radio silent. So much for radio silence. That kind of caught me off guard. Like, you just said you're going to do it radio silent, and then you broke radio silence.
Well, he was radio silent until he got in.
Like, yeah, and nobody notices, by the way.
No.
Nobody on the Imperial side notices.
No, he just goes right up the tube.
Yeah. All right. The hangar doors open, and the shuttle backs out before Hunter drops the wings into flight position, and passing several Star Destroyers, he drops in behind the science vessel and begins to tail it. Inside the bowels of the science vessel, Echo finds his way inside a storage room, and jacking into a nearby console, he begins working on the proximity sensors. But on the bridge, an alarm is triggered, and one of the TK pilots informs Lieutenant Novitz that he's picked up some unauthorized droid activity. Makes perfect sense. Who else has got a scomp link?
Yep.
Novitz orders one of the commando guards on the bridge to get eyes on it. Meanwhile, Hunter pulls the shuttle ever closer to the science vessel. Wrecker asks him, "What are you waiting for?" Hunter tells him the proximity sensors haven't been deactivated yet. From the back of the crew compartment, Rampart, who's securely strapped into one of the jump seats, says this isn't going to work, insisting that they'll be detected and shot down. And Crosshair tells him to relax, adding, "Echo's on it." There's something about that line. There's something about the way he delivers it. Like, there's a renewed
sense of trust and
he's back. He's fully back. That's what the toothpick's about. He's back. He had no trouble making the last 2 sets of dramatic shots that he made.
No, he did not.
We're slowly getting away from that. The shaking hand may rear its head in the very finale, but yeah, he's back.
Yeah. As the shuttle closes in, Echo continues to work on the sensors, but he's interrupted by a stormtrooper. Fortunately, Echo catches the trooper off guard and manages to stun him from behind. Then Lieutenant Novitz calls for a report, saying they don't have time for any more delays. Snatching the comlink from the trooper's belt, Echo gives the all clear, adding that it must have been a malfunction. Novitz orders the pilot to proceed, and on his display, we can see a status bar rapidly filling. No doubt, this is the transmission with the coordinates to Tantus. On the shuttle, Crosshair nervously says, "They're about to jump." Hunter shoots him a sideways look and says that Echo will come through. He just needs more time. By now, Rampart is incensed as he unstraps from the jump seat, pushes his way past Crosshair, shouting, "Which we don't have. He's probably been captured. Abort the mission!" The cockpit is silent, except for the rapid beeping of the sensors. And in a steady voice, Hunter tells him, "Negative," and slams the throttle forward. The sudden change in inertia sends Rampart tumbling back into Wrecker, but he and Crosshair catch him. Back on the science vessel, Echo jams his Scomplink back into the console, desperately trying to get the proximity sensors deactivated. Meanwhile, the shuttle lurches forward under the belly of the larger ship. On the bridge, the lead TK pilot nods to the left seat, and the pilot grasps the hyperdrive lever and begins to pull back on it. At the same time, Hunter begins rotating the shuttle, bringing it belly to belly with the science vessel. The engines on the Imperial ship flare, just as Hunter's display shows the proximity sensor shutting down. And as the stars stretch out from the viewport on the bridge of the science vessel, Hunter triggers the switch to magnetically seal the shuttle to its hull, and moving as one unit, both ships jump to hyperspace, and we cut to black.
Yeah, that was
in the tightest of tight.
That was some nice tension.
It was just very, very well done.
Mm-hmm.
Super, super well done. Couple things though, I know it's Disney Star Wars, and that's probably another conversation we can have, is that durations of hyperspace travel have been cut down significantly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nobody spends any amount of time in hyperspace anymore.
I think they move now at the speed of plot.
They do. They really do.
When you need to spend time to train with Ahsoka and Sabine, then they're slower. When you need it to be, you just cut scene, wipe, and you're there.
Yes.
There it is.
For the same reason that they jumped on, we have to do this now because the shuttle will be reported missing. You're now missing a trooper on that ship. And there is every chance for Echo to be detected en route.
Yeah, and that's the home world, right? We're not, let's not forget they went back to Coruscant, crazy bastards.
Yeah. I mean, we don't see Echo or any of the other clones by the time we get to Rebels, other than Hunter, Wolf, and Gregor, and Rex.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to be the one to say that. Is this the beginning of the end? Is this where does Echo make it to Tantus? Does he make it to the final?
Oh,
maybe. I think they'll make it to our finale.
The big finale.
Yeah,
you're probably right. You are probably right, but I can't help but be a little bit concerned for him in light of there's an unconscious guy.
True.
And
And I imagine that ship has a serious contingent of security. They were loading the troopers onto it.
Well, that's what he said. They have heightened security protocols.
Right.
Okay. I mean, you do have a bunch of crates of animals. I mean, you could.
I guess that's the best thing about the show right now, is that there is no, since the stakes in terms of the characters, we don't know their future, and therefore there's no real immunity for any of these characters.
No, there isn't. Yeah. Certainly it doesn't bode well for Echo, and certainly I wouldn't, jokingly, I was thinking you could pull a Finn and a Ray, and you could unleash the creatures. But then when you get to the other end and they declare that there's an in-flight emergency and the monsters are killing everybody, then they just don't let the ship land and they destroy it.
And
do you know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. So
away from the base, just like
so
at the beginning of the season.
It doesn't do them any good to do that.
But at the same time, the ship is big enough. I could see them being okay, we'll contain it to the cargo area.
Oh, yeah, that's possible too.
We'll deal with it when you get here.
That is possible. It is.
I could see. I can just see where Omega gets away and they don't, which would be the tragic thing.
Well, okay. So on that note, that brings me to the big question that I have, and I know that you don't want this, but you can't help. You have to ask the question: what is next for Rampart? Rampart never expected to be on this mission at all, right? He's like, "Are you going to let me go or not?" We had a deal. He wants to get away, and I've sort of gotten a couple different emotional beats out of Rampart from this episode to sort of frame that question.
Is he going to get to Tantus and forget his place?
Is he going to get to Tantus and try and get back in the good graces? I asked this last week when we didn't know what had happened. We're at a different place now, and I have to ask again. Is there a room for Rampart to try and make a deal with Hemlock to turn the Bad Batch in?
That's more in line with his character.
Yeah.
For me.
It is.
And I don't think he survives that either way.
I've added a shot of the Emperor because if you remember back in season 2, it was the Emperor who basically used the destruction of Camino to imprison Rampart. It's the Emperor's
Tarkin takes him down personally, right? Like,
was what I mean. So given that, because this comes from the highest level, from the Emperor himself, would Hemlock even entertain such a proposal
if he thought there was something in it for him,
for him?
Yeah.
but I still don't think it results in like his reinstatement or anything like that.
No,
God,
no.
It'd be like, thank you for serving your empire, followed by an execution shot.
So
he's not nearly as noble as Callus, and
no, he's not. No,
the
he's
decision to do that in Revenge of the Sith or 2 or whatever that movie was called. Sorry, The Rise of Skywalker.
That one.
Just ridiculous.
There was
ridiculous.
There was a thing earlier this week about the amount of time that Rampart has spent in the light, and not the light side, but physically in the light, like as in the cockpit shot right there.
Did you ever read the leaked script for the 3rd movie where
the hand has fallen and
where he does portray him, but then he kills himself with Kylo Ren's lightsaber?
Oh no, I did not.
Like, it's I mean,
that's grim.
Anyway, but I mean, it's a way better than I'm a good guy now.
yeah. So people have been asking, is this a metaphor for a possible flip? And I know you don't want that to happen, and I'm not sure that I want it to happen either. But like when I put it together with how I feel about the episode in general, going back to, I do feel like we are on a collision course for a Rogue One style ending. And if anybody gets out, it's going to be Omega and those kids.
Heck yeah.
And I feel like the help, as I had help, the help might actually be Rampart getting her out of there, which is a horrible thing to say, because I don't think he's very redeemable either. But then we didn't think Callus was either. We really didn't.
Yeah. And at the beginning, you didn't think Crosshair was.
No, I did not.
Yeah.
Go back and watch our early episodes. I'm like, that guy is redeemed in death.
Yeah, you were like,
here he
I'm
is.
tired of the redemption stuff. So
yeah.
And I'm not for good guys, I guess. But I guess there is no redemption for good guys. They're already good guys. So maybe, but they seem to be like, when it goes from rhyming stanzas to we do it once a season, it gets
well, there you go. Yeah.
Like, so
it loses its impact.
Maybe pick and choose. I guess I'll be fine with some sort of he saves the day in some fashion if it costs him his life. Like what we were saying about, I just don't like the character. He was super funny this episode. I'll give him that.
Yes, that was great. I loved all that stuff. I loved that. What the?
But he was so
but
ready
that's
to
more
fall
that's
right back into the power.
More in line with that could have been
that's
part of his character the whole time, right?
That's a good point, Andy. You said that he slipped right back into it so easily.
Like, oh, I missed this.
Right.
Oh, you like bossing people around and calling shots.
Yes, to some degree, I believe he does. But I do think that part of me thinks that he was relishing playing the role, and that it was a role. He knows that he's not an admiral anymore. He knows that he's not even a captain. But he did play the part, and he did it very well.
True.
Was he just playing a role, or does he really want that back?
All he wants is
if he wants that back, this is the other proposal I put up here. I put Crix Maydeen up there. Maydeen is an ex-Imperial.
Yeah.
Could Rampart become an officer within the nascent rebellion later on? He's got a lot of knowledge.
I mean, certainly they're a lot more forgiving in this era than they are once they defeat the Empire. Because then you go into a concentration camp and get re-educated. Machines.
And they take away your goddamn cookies.
But and then 35 years later, if you're a stormtrooper, you just get recruited right away.
Yeah, that's true.
Right away. Stormtrooper, my team. Whole planet of stormtroopers, our team.
So I don't want to speculate too hard. No, I really do, actually. I'm not gonna lie. I want to speculate the crap out of this.
Well, here's a Hail Mary for you.
Yeah.
If only the kids and Omega get away.
Yes.
And what we know so far is that Skeleton Crew is basically going to be Goonies in space.
Yes.
What if these are our Goonies?
I think I don't know. That's a good
Have we been
question.
introduced to any character from that show yet?
No.
I would have to look up who's confirmed in the cast.
Because that would be a giant spoiler if Michelle Ang is in there.
Oh, it's true, eh?
And if they're holding until the end of this,
I mean, I went the other way because again, I feel like all roads point to this Filoniverse movie, and I don't want to wait that long to get my live action appearance from Cal Kestis.
Yeah.
But I think that if these kids can't go home, that they could go to Tanalorr. And I think that Rampart could be a part of that, getting them to safety along with someone like Cal Kestis or
Quinlan Voss.
Quinlan Voss or oh my God, who's the actor in the pilot character for Skeleton Crew? Jan
Jude
Rogg.
Law.
Jude Law or Jude Law's character, which apparently is a Jedi character. May or may not be a Jedi character, ex-Jedi,
Maybe
fallen Jedi. Anyway, we are on a collision course for something. What that is, we don't know, but I think we all agree the tensions have never been higher in the show.
no.
It's imminent.
It is imminent. Next week, Wednesday the 24th, it's 3:14 Flash Strike. Flash Strike. Not sure what to make of that.
Gonna hit hard.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess. I mean,
we
there's only
go on the offensive.
That's going to be interesting. How do you assault an Imperial facility? I mean, we've seen it done before.
Mm-hmm.
If it's anybody that can do it, it's Rex.
I went back and I was looking for stuff, researching for this episode, and I went back and I watched the very first episode, the opening sequence of Caleb Doom. Did you get reinforcements? Yeah, they're coming. How many? 5. 5?
Right.
And then seeing Crosshair tether, not 1, not 2, but 3 droid hover tanks together, and Wrecker pushes all 3 of them.
That's true. It's
The other armor repulsor lifts. Yes, they're floating, but he still did that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get Wrecker wrecking some stuff, like literally wrecking some stuff.
Give him some bombs to play with.
We have to get some sort of message out that has to be heard by more than just a handful of people to have this giant.
Well, if the cavalry is going to arrive, who's calling them? Like, and can they make that call right now while they're tethered to the ship?
I think we're going to get some more stuff with Wolf. I think that Wolf is going to show up, and Wolf is still going to be on the side of the Empire, but because Rex is going to be there, Rex will be the one to say, Wolf,
you know what's wrong.
Absolutely.
It could even just be he holds the door.
Yeah.
That could be enough.
Yep. Doesn't have to actively fight. Just, I'll let you go. And then I'll run away in the end.
Yeah.
Or something like that. There's a lot more to come. I know it's the show is nearly over, which means that our review series is almost over. But I mean, I've had such a great time doing this. I cannot wait to get to the next thing, which is going to be Tales of the Empire. We are going to cover that in, I think we've agreed, a one shot.
I think so.
Yeah,
6 short episodes, just like we had in Tales of the Jedi. So we'll do it in the same style. That is going to be on Sunday, May the 5th. So happy Revenge of the 5th, everyone. Look for that. Yes.
That day?
Yes, it's going to be at a special time slot. No, sorry. You are right.
One is going to.
You are correct. Sorry. You are right. That's going to be Tuesday. So that's the 7th.
Yeah.
The 7th.
Tuesday the 7th.
7th.
Thank you. Thank you for correcting.
Today is TK421 day, though.
TK421.
Happy TK421 day.
Are we going to coin that?
Why? Maybe. Let's do it. April 21.
We should. April 21st. Happy TK421 day.
There it is.
Sorry, let me get that straightened out. Saturday, May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. Tales of the Empire comes out. Sunday, Revenge of the 5th. Revenge of the 5th. That is going to be our final fan batch. You can look for that in a special time slot at 1 p.m. Eastern. Where we'll do that, and then come back later that day at 6 p.m. Eastern in our regular time slot, where Hank and Andy and I, along with a bunch of special guests, are going to be having a roundtable discussion on the Disney era of Star Wars, where it's been, how it is, where it's going, how we feel about it. And you are all welcome to come and hang out with us and get in on the live chat, because that's
why is Forbes ratting on them?
That's going to be that's going to be such a fun conversation to have, and I can't wait for that. But that's it. I've got nothing else, guys. You got anything else you want to talk about?
No, man, chomping at the bit for the next 2.
Me too. Me too. Thanks everyone for hanging out with us again. It's been another exciting episode here at the show, and look forward to many more. Andy and I will be here on Tuesday night for the regular installment of Random Fandom. If you care to hang out for that, hopefully it's not another 2-hour one.
No, I don't think so.
I was struggling at the end of that one. If not, we'll see you next week back here when we do it all over again here on the Fan Batch.
Same batch time.
Yeah, same batch channel. As always, everybody, whatever your thing is, don't forget fan on. And for Fandom Power, my name is Wes.
I'm Andy.
And I'm Hank.
And we will see you all on the next one. Bye for now, everybody.
May the force be
That
with
one.
you.
Oh, yes. That.